Long ago, there was a young magician named Zaralas, who was apprenticed to the aged court magician Marlowe. One day Zaralas was called to the bedside, where Marlowe lay sick with fever. Marlowe spoke to his young apprentice. "Zaralas, I am dying. Soon you will be the king's magician. I have taught you many of my ways, but I have always kept hidden from you my greatest power. You must have wondered how I could prophesy the length of so many men's lives, and even tell them if they would be wounded or not." Zaralas nodded impatiently. Yes, he had often wondered. "Well," continued Marlowe, "in this glass lies the secret." He held up in his shaking hands a curious lens fashioned out of dark blue sapphire. "If you view a man's face through this glass, you will see his appearance for the future change in the space of a few seconds. Thus, if you view a young man, you will see his face grow old and more wrinkled, his hair grow thinner and greyer, till eventually you will see his dead face and rotting, until nothing but a skull remains. Should the man die from disease or in battle, you will see the aging suddenly cease, and you will see the skull more quickly." Marlowe let the sapphire lens fall to the bed, and then resumed speaking. "But beware, Zaralas. Never let the glass view itself." But Zaralas was not listening. He had grabbed the lens and was eagerly viewing Marlowe. Through the glass he saw the eyes of Marlowe. Through the glass he saw the eyes of Marlowe grow wide with death, then close, the face around them rotting quickly away, so that only a skull was left. Zaralas lowered the lens in awe. "Marlowe," he whispered, "you will die soon." "I don't need a glass to tell me that," growled the old magician. After Marlowe died, Zaralas duly became the court magician, and soon became as famous as his master had been. He was able to prophesy with certainty that both the king and queen would live for many years. Before each battle, he would tell the fortune of all the generals. Those who were going to live could fight recklessly, safe in the knowledge of their invincibility, whilst those who knew that they were to die could fight equally fiercely, knowing that the only thing that remained for them was their honour. All manner of people came to Zaralas, paying him vast sums of money to know their lifespans, and some went away elated, and others sadly resigned. Yet Zaralas was not happy. Often he wished he could throw away this instrument of power, because he hated telling men of their doom, especially those he loved. There was a lady at court whom Zaralas loved with all his heart, and she in turn loved him fiercely. But often she would entreat him to tell her of her own lifespan, for she felt certain that they were destined to spend a long, happy life together. But Zaralas was afraid to put so important a matter to the test. However, eventually he gave way to her pleas and viewed her through the lens. It gave him no joy. Immediately her face grew pallid and then grey. In absolute horror, Zaralas watched his love's face slowly slipping towards painful death. Gradually the lines of pain etched deeper, and the flesh on that once beautiful face wasted away, and Zaralas was left staring at a dead face that began the now familiar process of rotting. Choking with grief, he tore the sapphire lens from his eye. Without a word to his beloved, he fled up to his chamber at the top of the highest tower in the palace. There he sat feverishly thinking for 2 whole days and nights, shunning food and sleep, refusing to answer the frantic messages from his beloved that was slipped under his door. At last he gave a mournful sigh, his mind made up. He went over to his drawer, and from it he drew a shining dagger. Then silently he left his chamber, and with a face as pale as death, crept through the night to the chamber of his beloved. With a spell he unlocked the door and entered. On the bed his beloved lay sleeping, her golden hair shining around her in the moonlight. She was the picture of heart-breaking loveliness. Softly he whispered to her, "O love, I do this to cheat you of your fate. I could not bear to see you die slowly and painfully, your face withering with disease. With this dagger I can free you." Saying this, he plunged the dagger into the sleeping maiden. Then, feeling grief welling up through him, he tore himself away and ran back to his chamber in the tower, sobbing. The next morning, the servant told Zaralas the ghastly news. His beloved had been attacked in the night. He nodded solemnly and sadly. His eyes filled with tears again. "Yes," continued the servant, "she was badly wounded." "Wounded? Wounded?" He screamed, losing all control. "Was she not killed?" He fell on the floor, moaning in horror. The servant tactfully withdrew. During the weeks that followed, Zaralas lay in his chamber, and though messages were brought saying that his lady-love was desperate to see him, he refused to go to her. He could not bear to see her, for he knew that she was slowly dying a painful death from the wound that he had inflicted. He knew that her beauty was withering like a rose in December, and that he had caused her suffering. Weeks turned to months, and at last the physician visited Zaralas. "She is dead now," he said, reproach in his eyes. Zaralas tried not to show his relief. "She did not die of the dagger wound. I healed that. I could not heal her broken heart. She died because you would not see her." Wearily, Zaralas covered his face with his hands. His grief robbed him of all his strength. He waved the physician away and closed his eyes. Now, only now, was his underlying torment revealed to him. All through the past years, he had been secretly worrying about one thing. He had wished to know his own lifespan. The power of the sapphire lens had hung its threat over him. Now he realized, yet still his fear was too great for him to seek his fate. Yet slowly his grief conquered his fear. With horrible fascination, Zaralas could feel his curiosity winning him over. With shaking hands, he held the sapphire lens. No, it was too frightening. He put it down on the table. And then he picked it up again. He walked over to the mirror. Trying to blot out all rational thought, he put the lens to his eye. There, through the sapphire, his own dead eye stared back at him vacantly. Mesmerized, he watched his own face disintegrate into a mass of rotting putrefaction. The flesh began to fall from the bones. The skeleton, through the sapphire lens, beckoned to him. With a soundless scream, he crashed to the floor. A few minutes later, when the servants had burst into his chamber, they found nothing but a skeleton in Zaralas's clothes, lying crumpled on the floor. In its hands was clutched a sapphire lens.